Greetings fellow hobbyists. I am going to show you in this video the most epic Isengard build you've ever seen. Think orc pits, broken walls, ents on fire and more. The siege of Orthanc is about to begin. Over 2 parts we will begin to build the journey to complete 4 sections of Isengard, first constructing the outer wall, painting and covering the base, and then moving on to building the tower. We had the challenge to complete this with just over 4 weeks, so let's dive in. After relocating and moving the old setup to my parents' new house, I've been working with Keith, my godfather, for over 20 years to build in miniature the most screen accurate Warhammer boards of Middle-earth.
If you're enjoying the Middle-earth content, hit that subscribe button and strap in because we're going on an adventure.
Hey David, it's Damien. How you doing, mate? Good. Great to see you at Ardicon. Really enjoyed having a catch up, and yeah, thanks for offering to make some scenery for the magazine. That's super cool. So I was just checking, if we could just check in, if you're all right to build like a 4x4 board of Orthanc for us for SBG. It's going to issue 15 of the magazine. Yeah, that'd be super, mate. And where are we? It's August 22 now. So you know, we've got about 18 months to work on it. So I guess the best advice I could give you would be to just like get cracking now, and definitely don't leave it until 32 days before the deadline. But like I say, it's 18 months away, so I'm sure you won't do that.
Well, Boxing Day is now over, and we have precisely 30 days in which to try and complete a challenge to create a model of Isengard, hopefully in time for a photo shoot at the end of January. Our challenge starts with 4 baseboards, each of which is 2 foot by 2 foot square. And the first task is to try and create the depth of the base so that we can represent the caverns underneath Isengard.
When Damien and Tom from the SBG Magazine asked us to make a 4x4 game board of Isengard, we were definitely up for the challenge. However, with Keith and I living nearly 200 miles apart, and my wife at the time being very heavily pregnant, we realised that much of the building work would be left to Keith. We therefore set out to work into 5 essential criteria. The model had to be easily transportable, deep enough to include Saruman's pits, uncluttered for armies of ents and orcs to battle it out, and recognisable from the film so we could make it attractive and really feel like you were there.
At the moment we've been cutting the caverns and the tunnels between the caverns, and then just gluing the bottom of it so that we can stick it onto the baseboards. And the aim is to create spaces where we can fix LED lights later on. So
Depth was achieved by raising a foam base 8 cm above the baseboards, using offcuts of foam. This method saved on the amount of foam we actually needed, so we could have the hollow spaces underneath, perfect for holding the battery cases for the bonfire LEDs, which I'll tell you about in a little bit. We were then able to have pits 8 cm deep, which was enough for constructing a series of walkways, ladders and scaffolding.
okay, the latest project has been to mark, cut and glue together 7 curved pieces of foam in order to make the 3 wall sections. And I've done it this way so that each of the 7 layers represents 1 course of stonework in the walls.
Once the holes were cut in the foam base for the pits, the inner edges of the pits were cross-hatched and roughed up with our craft knives to give the impression of rock and earth being dug up and thrown about. When the base was clearly in place, we moved on to the outer wall. Keith constructed each section of wall from 7 layers of 1 cm thick foam. That involved, unfortunately for him, cutting 21 arcs of foam. The reason we did this is because it meant the horizontal markings across the areas of stone were already in place. So then all Keith had to do was mark in the vertical lines for each individual stone.
So having scored the pencil marks in, The next step is to indent some of the stones, because stones are not all level and flat. And what I'm using is the container that the blades for the craft knives comes in, so it's very useful because it's got nice straight square edges. I'm just taking randomly some of the stones and indenting either an edge or a corner so that they're not all flat uniform like modern concrete slabs.
To make the walls look like aged stonework, Keith adapted the techniques illustrated by Zorbazor's brilliant videos on making and painting realistic stonework.
Here we can see the difference that texturing makes. So on the left we have a set of steps that are just simply being constructed, and on the right a set of steps that have been textured with all the slabs marked in and the weathering added. So all of these stages, although they take time, are really worth it and make a complete difference.
There was a total of 10 stages for texturing and painting the outer wall. Each wall was treated describing with a knife and pencil, indenting with the square corner of Keith's knife blade holder, then texturing with scrunched up kitchen foil. We then spray painted it with neutral grey from Liquitex, highlighted it with 4 different coloured paints and dry brushed it twice. Once that was done, we then dry brushed it before finally washing a diluted black paint all over the wall. We finished it by touching up with a green wash in certain places that may have been host to moss or algae. The steps and buttresses had the same exact treatment. 3 segments of the wall we made to be removable so the walls could be breached when the Ents attacked Isengard. In the week leading up to this project being finished, I was able to go down and be with Keith, so we started making the scaffolds together. The towers and wheels were great fun to make, following the guide in the book Battle Games in Middle-earth and the Two Towers Journey book we constructed Saruman's Industry. The scaffolds needed to be functional but inherently unstable, unlike the walls and tower which were built by the Númenóreans in exile.
We wanted some bonfires burning, so Keith purchased 2 kits from Small Scale Lights.
There's a permanent red, a flickering red and a flickering amber. And these are timed to flicker randomly and just to create a very slight flicker effect for a fire. And it's just a very effective way of bringing a diorama or a model to life.
To ensure there was plenty of open space for battles, we decided that the trees had to be cut down rather than pulled up like you see in the movie, which meant that the ground was not pitted by dozens of holes where the tree roots had been. We inserted small tree stumps into the ground using twigs picked up from dead trees along the edges of our nearby disused railway line. While Keith started work on the tower, I began adding the grass and earth to the baseboards and gluing in the trees around the edge of the board. Modelling Saruman's Isengard is basically recreating destructive chaos, so we had a limited palette of colours. So to bring colour to the model, we planted a grove of trees outside the walls. We wanted this to demonstrate just the outskirts of Fangorn Forest on the edge of the board.
It was an absolute pleasure to work on this board, and this is just the start. In part 2 we will dive into exactly how Keith constructed the Tower of Orthanc, but for now you'll just have to wait. Unless of course you purchase a copy of the SBG Magazine, you can go and read all about it. We even got to play on this board, which was the most epic thing ever, and it was Keith's first official game, so more on that goodness in the next video. Until next time, may your paintbrushes be steady and your dice always roll in your favour. Happy hobbying.